All right, manners matter, especially during the holiday season. Here with me is Rita Chalamitis, etiquette consultant. Thanks for coming back in.
Thanks for having me.
I love the fact that you're here because it's always a good refresher to learn, are we doing things right, whether we're going out to eat or perhaps you're going to someone's house for a holiday party, or maybe it's even at your own home. So let's talk about what's the first thing we should do when we get seated, whether it's at a restaurant or at someone's home.
Well, the first thing we want to do when we arrive at a meal is we want to sit down with your back up to the chairs, no slouching.
Sit upright,
Sit upright in your chair, and you want to put your napkin on your lap. So you
Right
wanna,
away?
Right away, yes.
Okay.
A lot of people want to wait until they actually get their food, which is okay as well, but as I was telling you earlier before the segment, that if you're going to have something to drink, which you typically do before your meal comes,
Right.
you want to protect your clothing, and that's really what the purpose of the napkin is. So
Okay, so act as, just pretend I'm sitting down here. The first thing that you're going to do when you sit down, Rita,
Yes.
is put the napkin nice and
Yes.
neat like this.
nice and neat, just
On
like
your
that,
lap.
and you did it great, where the fold is actually going to be facing
Ooh,
you.
okay,
so you
that's
did that
important.
just right.
Okay,
Absolutely,
fold
yeah.
facing you.
So you leave it folded just like that, but you unfold it enough to cover your lap.
Okay, very good.
And there's lots of different uses for your napkin. People think it's just for your, what is the purpose to protect your lap? But you also want to make sure that you're using it to blot your mouth in between chewing some food and
So
taking
that's
a
okay,
drink.
even with lipstick and lip gloss, it is okay to.
I always say, as a rule of thumb, not to wear lipstick to the table, but I know that's
Interesting.
not realistic. So if you
I
can
always
try
hesitate.
if you can try to take it off with a napkin, or
Prior
especially if
to.
you're dining in somebody's home and you're using their linens,
Right.
it's probably not a good idea to leave a
Yeah.
lipstick stain on the
Okay,
linens or the glasses.
so after the food comes, how do you handle the silverware? Before we get that, no elbows on the table?
You know, this is
Or
one
what-
I
what's
have
the
fun
deal with
with when
that?
I teach children, because when I ask them what the #1 rule of dining is, they always say, oh, no elbows on the table. And I always say, actually, you can put your elbows on the table when you're conversing before the meal comes. Now, once the food is on the table,
Interesting.
then we take our elbows off the table
Okay.
once the food comes. But prior to that, you're supposed to be engaging in conversation.
So it's okay if an elbow
absolutely,
goes on the table. Once the food gets here,
elbows off.
don't do that. Okay, so how do you handle silverware once you're eating and once you're finished?
Good question. You always start from the outside in, working your way towards your plate.
Learned that last week when you were here.
I'm glad you were listening.
So we have a salad, what have you. I'm eating.
Yes.
And then what if I want to take a little break? You know, do we just put the fork back down, or what do we do?
You want to put it on your plate. You want to set it on your plate. In fact, any utensils that you use and that are now dirty, you never want to set them back on the linens. So you
Okay,
wouldn't put
never
them
set
back
them
on
back
a
on the
placemat
actual
or a
table.
tablecloth. No, they
Now,
would go
is
back
there
onto your
certain
plate.
placement, like angled like this?
Pretty much
or-
anywhere on your plate, whether it's angled, just as long as it's completely on your plate is fine. You never want to create I call it a plank.
Oh, I do
you
this
see a
all
lot
the
of people
time.
doing
you see
that.
this?
Yes.
That's a no-no, so that's kind of tacky then.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So you want to keep it on your plate. I always tell students that there's kind of a secret language that waiters and waitresses know, and that is
Right.
they're knowing if you're if you're taking a break, if you're done with your meal. And as you and I discussed, if you're done with your meal, typically you see an inverted V with your silverware.
Okay, look at this.
So your fork is
when
face
you're
down.
finished with your meal, do this.
Yes, an
That
inverted V.
signals that you are finished with
You
your
are
meal.
done with your meal, and
Okay.
that also signals to the wait staff that you're ready for them to take your plate and that you're
Okay.
finished with your meal. Most often they'll ask, which is a good thing if you're done.
Right.
But
Okay.
also, and we started the segment talking about your napkin, what you do with your napkin. So this would be the time to, this isn't where you wad it up
Do we
and
just
throw
put
it on the
down
table.
like that? No.
You can just put it down just like you did,
Just like
except it would
this?
go on the left.
Oh,
To the side
go
of the
on the
forks.
left. Here we
Yes.
go.
It
I
can
didn't
go
know
on the
this.
left, or if they've taken your plate, say that the wait staff has already removed your plate, you
Okay.
can leave it in the middle. Now, if that signifies that you're done with your meal and you're not coming back. If
Okay.
you are, maybe you just excuse yourself momentarily to use the restroom or go blow your nose, which you don't want to do in your napkin.
No, don't.
Or at the
no blowing
table.
nose. Okay, very good. Really quick, I want to ask you about
Sure.
tipping for the holidays at a restaurant. Do
Yes,
you give more?
lots of
We're running out of
questions.
time, so do we give more?
It depends. Typically, if it's a service provider, you've been tipping every time you get a service.
Okay.
Not necessarily. You don't have to.
Okay.
First and foremost, you have to consider your budget. what's in your budget. Tipping is all, especially at the end of the year, is all about saying thank you. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with a nice handwritten thank you card.
Oh, yeah.
More doesn't fit in your
Never
budget.
really thought about that. And then there's also other services like babysitting that you
Babysitting,
can.
I would say anything like babysitting or any other service providers, say your housekeeper that you don't typically
Right.
tip on a daily basis, that would be the time to maybe give them a little bit of extra bonus.
little
And that's
extra bonus.
typically maybe the equivalent of 1 week's service or one evening's pay. to a
Hairdresser
babysitter.
up to the cost of one visit. Wow. You know how much
That's why I
that
said
would be?
consider your
Woo-wee!
budget. Consider
Okay,
your
no, but
budget.
this is good to know, especially around the time of the holidays. Thank
Yes.
you so much,
Thank
Rita,
you,
for
and
coming
happy
in. We do
holidays
have
to you.
all of this information on our website, so go check out the list at casa.com and click on Casa Blog. All right, stay right there. The time right now is 7:51. After the break, we have an inexpensive and easy craft for you to do on this third day of what we are calling Thriftmas. We'll be back.